All right, guys, we are back today. We have our crystal balls. We have Thursday night football. What are we up to today, Spags?
We've also got some numbers don't lie, which is going to be my chance to deceive Pete one more time using one of his most beloved rookies this year. We got a lot to hit on. We're going to build some lineups, and we're going to preview tomorrow the giveaway here, our first giveaway of a guest spot here on Splash Plays coming up. So you want to get those details, get it after the jump. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Splash Play, the fantasy football podcast for every game under the sun. And I'm Chris Spags, joined once again by your friend and mine, Pete Overzet. How are you doing, Pete?
I'm doing good. I'd like to think I'm friends with everyone who watches the show. Maybe there are some people that hate watch the show. You know, it's just they can't turn away, and maybe I wouldn't be friends with them, but I think it's a safe assumption, Spags.
I think at least acquaintance level is really the goal here. Like, you get along, you can have a 3-minute conversation. Maybe it peters out after that. Maybe it becomes best friends. I'm in a classic Step Brothers kind of scenario. But either way, we appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. So, of course, make sure you are hitting the like button on this YouTube video, whether you're watching on Pete's channel or on the Splash Play channel. And also, as I mentioned before the intro, make sure that you are giving us 5 stars and a review on Apple Podcasts. And we appreciate numbers here coming out in a big way. So I'm going to say, first of all, thank you to everybody who's done it already, whether you updated a review from before or you put in a new one. We do appreciate that a bunch. But we're giving away this guest spot on tomorrow's show. Going to spin the wheel of the randomizer that you've seen and loved on Pete's shows before and give away that first guest spot and maybe even a randomizer box. I don't know. But tune in tomorrow and getting those 5 stars and a review ratings on Apple Podcasts for us because it helps us out a bunch. And you can win a shot here to do a guest spot on Splash Play, which, Pete, as we all know, in the industry, there's very few holy grails out there for football prognostication. Being on Splash Play, though, you look at the names we've had here. This is basically a Hall of Fame we've had on our show.
Yeah, it's kind of this show has basically established itself as a lucky charm. We talk about the Millie Maker winners each week who watch the show and how that's followed them around. I mean, you think of all the guests who we've had on and how we launched their career. I mean, Josh Norris came on this show and then got a full-time job over at Underdog. And like, there's a direct correlation to him getting that bump from this show. So the things we do for people, I think we're star makers, Spags.
I think people talk a lot about SNL being the place here, but, you know, you come on this show and you're leaving with a fantasy football job. That's the not guarantee we're going to give all of you guys, but we appreciate you all tuning in. Of course, make sure to go check out footballoutsiders.com/subscribe. Check out everything on there, really. They're the parent company of this show, I guess, now, but also doing a lot of great things. DVOA. Actually, Pete, one thing you might not have seen this week, but the Carolina Panthers, who we're going to talk about more today for Thursday Night Football, their game against the potentially hapless Texans, they're now the top team in DVOA, and they've apparently gotten amazing results, which are there in the box scores, but it feels like, Pete, there could be some positive playoff wins here swirling around the Carolina Panthers and one Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I got a bet down earlier. I did take the Panthers at -8, partly after reading up on the incredible stats for the Panthers. They're number 1 in basically every metric right now. And this just seems like an absolute disaster spot for the Texans. Quarterback change, who's a rookie on a short week against a very good defense. This could get ugly, I think.
Yeah, the pressure rates for Carolina are really, I think, something to note here. I'm actually just going to pull it up now because it wasn't on Pro Football Reference yesterday, but I pulled the data from this. 22% hurried rate. They're blitzing 33% of the time. There's a lot of things we talk about for football that, you know, obviously defense, I think we are both, Pete, unless you've changed, we're still team defense doesn't matter, right, overall?
I think so. I mean, the thing is, the whole thing about defense doesn't matter is that it's very hard to predict on a weekly basis as far as it pertains to fantasy points. But I think using some of these data points can really help us out as far as the things that do typically generate fantasy points, whether that be a good pass rush. I had the stats here. My guys over at Bet the Prop had compiled this. Number 1 in points allowed, 10.5 a game. Number 1 in total yards allowed, 190 yards a game. Number 1 in sacks, number 1 in pressures. And then, like you mentioned, number 1 in pass DVOA per Football Outsiders, the presenting sponsor of Splash Play.
Look at that. I love when you start really shilling for the company, Pete. You're a company man for the Peter Overzet brand, but now you're becoming a company man for my company too. So that's the kind of really the synergy people look for from multinational corporations.
There you go.
Yeah, also 52.5% completion rate allowed for Carolina. There's a lot of things here that are not going to look great for Davis Mills and company, but we will talk about more of that coming up in a little bit. Let's talk about the NFL news, Pete. I know you did a really robust breakdown of the situation for the San Francisco 49ers, but JaMychal Hasty now going to be out for a while after we talked about him being the pivot point for this injured Niners backfield. Trey Sermon is concussed. Elijah Mitchell's status is up in the air. So I know, Pete, you mentioned one guy. Anytime you can break out the XFL in the Fantasy Life newsletter, I'm a happy man. So tell me how this backfield is looking for you. And a sad scenario, a team that loves to run now has very little in the way of running backs.
Yeah, I mean, last week I was kind of pounding the drum to go hard on Elijah Mitchell, and now it's just like deja vu all over again, pounding the drum for another, running back that comes out of obscurity. But the whole thing in my general thesis with this is it just does not matter the kind of talent level. Like people were saying, oh, he just got cut by the Bengals. Well, if he was on the Bengals practice squad and Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine and Chris Evans were all hurt, and all of a sudden, Jacques Patrick, as I like to say in the French accent, Spags, if he gets promoted and he's going to be the lead guy, I'm very interested in him for fantasy because, as you know, as a Mike Davis and Melvin Gordon lover, we're chasing volume. Right, Spags? We're chasing volume in these guys. So, yeah, I'm very interested in Patrick. He profiles as a big-bodied guy who would get the goal line work, the short yardage work. And I just don't think Shanahan cares about pedigree. Like, I don't think he's going to be like, oh, I can't play Patrick. He's an XFL. It's like, no, if he's the healthy body and he's the guy who can, get those short yardage situations for us, then he's going to play.
Yeah, I have to say, I have a question for you first, but I have to point out Alex Clark's chat. I hope Jeff Wilson gets back soon, bro. Yeah, I think that's probably what a lot of people out there are thinking, and I'm sure that includes Kyle Shanahan. But Pete, question for you. Which XFL team did Jock Patrick play on? And I have not looked this up, but I know it like the back of my hand.
It was the Tampa Bay Vipers, right?
You are correct. And you know what? They had a two-headed running backfield. They also had Mark Trestman as the coach. And I think did he get fired? Am I remembering that correctly? I feel like he might have gotten fired.
I forget, but yeah, he was one of the offenses that I believe people were like pretty excited about, and then was one of the more actual conservative XFL offenses, which was a disappointment.
Yeah, they ran a ton. They didn't do very much creative, and I feel like he got fired, though I can't look this up right now. But he had a tough start. The headlines that come up for Mark Trestman at XFL. Mark Trestman has had a tough start as head coach in the XFL, which probably does not speak too well for this former CFL luminary.
I just got very excited about Splash Play doing XFL content this winter. It's going to be very fun.
Well, they delayed it another year. The Rock can't get his shit in line.
It's not 2022?
No, they pushed it back.
God, I thought it was 2022.
I know, trust me, better than Playmakers, I think it would have been to fill the offseason.
All right, we're going to redo Playmakers this offseason, guys.
This year, we're just going to reenact it. We're going to do
God.
different script readings, maybe. Tua Tagovailoa, he's going to be out versus Las Vegas. And I thought this was an interesting one, Pete. We talked about Jacoby Brissett's the backup. Obviously, he played last time out. Will be, I think, maybe not a one-to-one replacement, but a replacement level replacement will be one Jacoby Brissett. But I thought the news is interesting here where now it's like, oh, Tua's got fractured ribs, so he won't be playing. But earlier in the week, they were like, it's going to come down to comfort for him and how he feels. And I just feel like Miami, the ultimate enablers of the Tua Tagovailoa experience. And I'm getting over it, Pete. I know I've been over it before, then I kind of readjusted my priors, but now I'm back fully hating Tua once more.
I feel bad for Tua, and I don't think it's a surprise that he's sitting. This isn't like some conspiracy that they're coddling him. I mean, they had to roll the card out for him last game. So I always expected him to miss a game or two, get healthy. Jacoby Brissett can't be that big of a downgrade based on how he's playing right now. They get Will Fuller back. Hopefully the offense can get going a bit.
Yeah, and it's a spot for Tua here where you want to see him get a fair shot. Being hurt, definitely not the spot, but definitely, maybe whiffs of Paul Pierce being wheeled out is what I would say for Tua in that cart. And maybe Tua just not a rib issue, just a little bit of constipation. We'll find out in the coming weeks, I'm sure. Brett Hundley taking the majority of reps with Carson Wentz. Honestly, this one made me laugh. And injury is never funny, really, but Carson Wentz spraining both his ankles, which harkened back to me when a few weeks ago I went to a friend of my girlfriend's birthday and got a little drunk. We played some pickup basketball in the backyard. Me and guys, to be clear, not me and a couple girls. So I would have fucking housed them if that were the case. But I chased after one ball. Pete fell and injured both my wrists and hands. In classic, like drunk, you're in your mid-30s, don't do this anymore scenario. But spraining both your wrists, spraining both your ankles, just something extra embarrassing about the duality of that.
Wow, I just had a flat that. That is brutal. And the reason I just had a flashback is because I did that a few times in college. Like we'd get drunk and go play pickup basketball. And, back then you're at 19, 20 years old. Your body's resilient. You're indestructible. Like what's the worst? And now I'm thinking if I tried to do that now, I would definitely hurt myself in a catastrophic way. So I can't believe that you're diving on the floor for loose balls at your age, drunk on what I assume was asphalt.
It was, in fact, it was the crossover between asphalt and grass, to be clear. But yeah, I had you actually could kind of still see the wound here that I got, but I had like an injury here, was bruised and contused all in here. And then this still kind of hurts when I just got back to the gym this week to lift because I was like, I'll let this heal because I know not to push that. But yeah, getting old, for all the folks out there that are Gen Z fans, which hopefully are very plentiful, boy, it fucking sucks getting old. I'm cursing too much today, but it really does suck getting older. Those little wrinkles around the edges are really what get you time and time again.
Yeah. I think, I don't know if I've said this on the show. It's a story I keep very near and dear to me. No, I stopped playing rec basketball because I had back-to-back seasons of injuring myself. One was like a mid ankle sprain. And then the next year I dislocated my shoulder. And both times, it puts me out for 2 months. I can't go to the gym. It sets you back. I'm like, I don't love basketball enough to be, injuring myself for 2 to 3 months just to play this sport.
Yeah, I'm trying to get back. I mean, I'm hoping to have a basketball court when we move in a couple months, and I got to get back into shape because I got to play with young Luca. He's going to be named for I don't know if I said the name on the show, but his name is going to be Luca. So he's named for Luka Doncic as well as we just.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Was that your name? I didn't know you were such a huge Luca fan, and I love that name though.
I mean, I think if we're going to breed the next great white American basketball player, we might as well start with the name. I think that's where it all begins.
How high was Dirk up there?
Dirk was not high enough. I feel like me and the Germans have a fraught history, I think. Just overall, friends really more with the Germans more than anything. But I would have gone with Jordan. I do like that. Michael Jordan is still my guy, but that was a non-starter for my girlfriend. So we're going with Luka, yeah.
What's in the same spelling?
Yeah, with a K, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and also Luca Brasi from the Godfather as well, though that's spelled with a C. So a proud Italian heritage of mafia-related activity, which is what you want to start a young man out with, I would say.
Well, I like it. Young Luca.
I'm glad you approved, Pete. That was really what that's why I haven't said it on the show. I don't want Pete to not approve.
I mean, even if I hated it, was I going to say it? I mean, come on.
No, it's true. You are polite in that one respect. Maybe not so much with the rider.
Imagine if you're like, oh yeah, we're so excited to announce we're naming our young child Luke. I'm like, fucking dumb.
How much you thought of that name for 30 seconds, I guess, maybe? You just turned on the TV, you played NBA 2K22, and we're like, yeah, that's the name. That's what we're going with.
Yeah.
Brett Hundley, though, potentially starting here, sharing reps with Jacob Eason. It seems like a disastrous situation. I do think there's a possibility to get for the Colts, like Frank Reich, I do think very highly of his ability to sort of game plan, get the most out of everybody. As we all know, historically, winning that Super Bowl with the Eagles, getting the most out of Nick Foles. But I would say in this spot, Pete, I don't know how you could trust anything on the Colts with a platoon of the luminaries that are Brett Hundley and Jacob Eason.
Yeah, this is an interesting game. It's going to be gross. You got to imagine that they just run the ball a ton. I mean, the Colts are already kind of willing to be run heavy. And then in this situation, I thought one interesting thing, I was reading Pat Thorman's article over at ETR as far as the pace. And he has this as a potential pace up game that could play a little faster. I don't know how much not having Wentz is going to ultimately impact that, but I'm hopeful that my guy, Jonathan Taylor, he's priced down all the way to, I believe it's 7,200 this week on DraftKings. He was losing some work to Marlon Mack, who played like an extended drive last week, but I'm rambling. I'm tilting. I want the Colts to be good. I drafted a lot of wins in best ball. I like Jonathan Taylor. So hopefully this doesn't fully sink them.
In Tennessee, in terms of DVOA from Football Outsiders, they are giving up 30% more production overall. So maybe there's some ways for some of the stalwarts here to get there, even with the crappy QB play. But definitely something to keep in mind here to manage your risk appropriately. Another injury / COVID related injury. So we're back to that. Antonio Brown's on the COVID list. It seems like he may be vaccinated, but it does seem, according to Adam Schefter, it's tough to expect him to play. He does have to have the 2 negative tests within 24 hours to play against the Rams. So Antonio Brown being out, Pete, I feel like that's just probably a net win for all the other pass catchers in this Tampa Bay offense that is looking completely high-powered and high-octane so far.
Yeah, I'm so confused by this COVID testing stuff because it says 2 negative tests 24 hours apart, which clearly he has enough time, testing positive on Wednesday before Sunday to take 2 tests. If if he's vaccinated, I guess I guess I just don't understand why he wouldn't be cleared.
Because he could still transmit it.
Okay. Yeah. It just seems, I guess it's weird that Schefter says it will be tough for him to play Sunday if it's still all dependent on the test. It just seems binary. I guess I'm not understanding how you could be confident in one direction or the other.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably because like I think you still test positive for like a week or so, but you obviously have less symptoms, and you're less likely to transmit, but you're still going to have some possibility of transmitting, especially in a football scenario. So obviously we're not COVID scientists here. You could save that for Denny Carter, who we all know is the foremost expert over at our friends over at NBC Sports Edge. But I would say that, yeah, Antonio Brown, banking him probably not playing, it seems like, based on what the reports are. Good news, though, one guy might be playing after not playing so far. Odell Beckham, full participant in practice. Jarvis Landry, unfortunately, out for at least the next 3 games after being added to the IR. But Odell Beckham being back, Pete, Cleveland's looked good so far, and it's clearly all coming on the back of Nick Chubb. But Odell being back in, I feel like when you lose Landry, getting Odell back in, I feel like that's a wash, maybe even a positive thing if Odell is at least 80% of where he was before that ACL injury.
Yeah, but then there was another report that I saw floating around this morning when asked if he'll be available for week 3 against the Bears. Odell responded, "We'll see." It was a candid interview for Beckham, who even admitted that his 11th month timetable following surgery put him back, yada, yada. So this stuff has been like, the Odell stuff is very concerning to me just because he had all offseason to get ready. And now has been very kind of non-committal about this stuff. And I don't even know if you can feel good about starting him if he does suit up, because Odell does strike me as one of those guys that would just want to get out on the field, but they would limit his stats and he wouldn't be playing like a full complement. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to trust him in basically any format this week, but hopefully he just gets back on the field.
No matter what happens, I would say don't trust Donovan Peoples-Jones to get over 100 yards on a touchdown, because that's not a good pick. And in fact, if your fantasy host ever recommended that, especially during a flagship statement or segment that they do, don't trust that. Donovan Peoples-Jones, not anybody reliable, Pete. That's the one thing I will say. T. Higgins not practicing. Lamar Jackson also not practicing. Saquon Barkley, Kenny Golladay limited. Any of these stand out to you as being a concern? I feel like, to me, these feel like maintenance things more than anything.
Yeah, even when I was writing the newsletter, I normally like see all the Wednesday ones, and I'm like, I'm not bothering with these because there's so much like veteran rest. If anyone gets dinged up on Sunday, they're generally like T. Higgins, I think, is an example of a guy who's just taking, Wednesday, maybe even takes Thursday off. Friday is when we really start to know, like, oh boy, there's an issue here. So yeah, none of those guys I'm extremely worried about. The one guy that's really on my radar is Darrell Henderson with this rib cartilage injury, and they kind of go back and forth of saying whether it's a pain tolerance thing or not. So they have earmarked Friday as a day to kind of test and see how he's feeling. So I'll be paying close attention to that one. And if for some reason Sony Michel, like if you're in a Schaller, I don't know, 10, 12 team home league kind of thing, if Sony Michel is available, he's a great add just to hedge against Henderson missing.
Schmohawks DFS saying in the chat too, he had COVID after being vaxxed and was testing positive 3 weeks later, which that feels like an outlier one, but I guess we just don't know. So, I mean, obviously we're giving our best possible take, but I feel like given that one, maybe even less or more clouds over Antonio Brown playing against the Rams. Also, can we get helicopter sounds? Hank is asking. I don't know why. Why is that?
Last night on Ship Chasing, There was literally a helicopter over Pat's apartment for like 20 minutes. And it was just absolutely brutal to our sound quality. So I think that's what Hank is referencing.
But they didn't find Pat, though. That's the main thing, right? They didn't.
Yeah, I mean, Pat was on the run for touting Ronald Jones. So, it happens.
One day it had to catch up with him. But we got the return of Numbers Don't Lie here. We're moving it to Thursdays moving forward. So now's that time. If you're watching on Peach Stream or on the Splash Play channel, hit that like button. We appreciate that support a bunch. Helps us get seen by more people and just helps the vibe in the room. So please, if you're watching live or after the fact, hit that like button. But it is time for Numbers Don't Lie, the game where I'll read 3 stats, 2 are true and 1 is a lie, and Pete has to guess which one of the 3 stats is a fake. And Pete, I teased it in the YouTube chat before we started the show. There's a real strong Numbers Don't Lie, and I feel like I don't know if you're going to get it or not, but I want you to be completely honest with me though if you think this is going to be a fair one or not when we do it, because I think it's fair and I think it's great.
All right, I'm going to be giving all of my extra mental capacities to cracking this nut here.
So I'm going to appeal to Pete's interest up top here with a guy that he loves, Rondale Moore. He's performed at a high level by rookie standards, but is it impossibly high? Moore is currently getting the ball on 27.3% of his snaps, the most of any wide receiver who's played over 20 snaps per game. Pete, there's a simple Rondale Moore stat here. Does it sound like it's true to you?
Yes, it sounds very true. He has been getting lots of targets when he is on the field, but actually hasn't been running that many routes and playing that many snaps. I know Ben Gretsch wrote about that extensively in Stealing Signals. So yeah, it's one of those interesting things for fantasy where it's like you're really excited about what he does with the ball, but then you also worry that they're just going to keep trotting AJ Green out there all the time as well.
And one real stat for sure that I saw this morning on Twitter was that he's had the most yards after catch for a rookie through 2 games since 2006, I think. So he is definitely doing something noteworthy, even if the stat doesn't end up being true. Next stat up, Nick Chubb is a perennial leader in avoided tackle rate, and that's the case again with a 58% avoided tackle rate so far this year. But it gets even more interesting behind him as the number 3 overall back in avoided tackle rate is rookie Javonte Williams with a 42% avoided tackle rate. And number 2, Pete, a man who Pete just kind of reviled a few moments ago, the allegedly washed up Melvin Gordon with a 50% avoided tackle rate. Pete, does that sound credible to you?
This is now I can see the mental games you're playing because of course it doesn't sound credible to me. On the other hand, there's two things. Like if I say it's credible, then you're getting a W, but you might think that and maybe you're just juicing Melvin Gordon's knowing that you can bait me. See, there's layers and layers on this. This one does sound very fishy, though.
The metagame of this one is really, I think that's where we shine with Numbers Don't Lie. Speaking of superstar running backs like Melvin Gordon, total yardage share is a metric that does favor high volume RBs like Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry. Those guys are currently numbers 1 and 2 on the list, respectively. But number 3 is a bit of a surprise. The Niners' Deebo Samuel is responsible for 39% of his team's offensive yards gained, and that puts him ahead of guys like David Montgomery and Joe Mixon. So, Pete, tell me your thoughts on that one, and I guess then guess which one is the lie.
Yeah, Deebo, I think like short of maybe Cooper Kupp has just been one of the biggest usage monsters for wide receiver. Like you can go look at Ayuk, who's been non-existent. Kittle has barely gotten involved. And then obviously their running game is decimated. So everything has been funneling through Deebo. That one checks out to me.
Okay, so which one is the lie then?
It's something with this Melvin Gordon shit. There's no way. There's no way Melvin Gordon is what's the stat? 50%?
50% avoided tackle rate. That would put him just ahead of Javonte Williams, who's got 42%.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the specific stat that is wrong in that one, but I'm going with number 2 as the lie.
All right. Well, the results, Pete, are in. And in fact, you did get it correctly. That is the lie. Not only is Melvin Gordon not number 2, he's in fact way behind. He's got a 13% tackle rate.
Wait, so you're telling me that not only did I win, but you had to admit that Melvin Gordon is way behind Javonte Williams. This is
substantially behind him by a wide margin.
How are you feeling about that bet?
I mean, it's a volume game, Pete. It's going to get better. It's going to be a better rate moving forward. Clearly, Javonte Williams is getting the same opportunities. So I think Melvin Gordon on the uptick, but yeah, getting tripled up in avoided tackle rate by the rookie coming in.
Yeah, I mean, Melvin still led slightly in overall usage, but I don't know. This still kind of my thesis remains true that Javonte is going to, slowly get more work here. And he's looked good, clearly, as evidenced by those stats.
Yeah, so there you go, Melvin Gordon. Hopefully he hangs in there despite being soundly beaten in that one category. But there's Numbers Don't Lie. And Pete, now it's time for the Waiver Wire Crystal Ball segment where we're going to give people the $1 guys you can get on waiver wires now that could end up being special. And of course, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't appropriate psychic culture and put a little shawl on my head. And actually, should I keep the bun out? No, yeah, I don't know. What's the most appropriate one here? Ooh.
I kind of like the bun. It does really play into it.
Okay, so I'll keep the bun out. I'll wrap it a little bit more low. And I've got my crystal ball here. And I learned, too, that I'd like to talk to the crystal ball and hear what it says. I feel like it's part of my vibe. And I'll go first, Pete, because this one is not as serious as a snake draft, so we can have fun here. And the crystal ball is speaking to me now. And the crystal ball is telling me that your take on Jock Patrick was a really sound one that could happen this week. Not a main slate play for DFS, but a guy you could see him on Sunday Night Football, have that big game, win you a showdown potentially. And I think that's where I'm going with my crystal ball. Get this guy now and then hope that the Niners continue to have a mash unit there every single day of guys cycling in and out with their various injuries.
Yes, I'm very, very upset. You took my precious Jacques Patrick. He was what I see in my crystal ball. It's almost hard to see any other players in here. It's just one giant photo of Jacques Patrick.
I mean, he was the best pick, I think, was what any psychic will tell you, any amateur or professional psychic will tell you.
Okay. Now, as I look in here and you take my favorite, I am going to go ahead and say, even though I like Jacques Patrick, there's still a chance that Trenton Cannon could be the one, the speedster special teams player that was cut by the Ravens and one of the few healthy players in the backfield. I have to move Jacques, and over his shoulder is Trenton Cannon peeking up saying, "Don't forget me. Don't forget me."
Yep. I think, boy, you really committed to the bit this week.
You've asked for it.
I did
ask for it.
I'll go. Oh, the ball's telling me this is not a take that I want to go with, but if the spirits are guiding me this direction, I would be a fool to not listen to hear them say the name Davis Mills, whispering into the wind. And the crystal ball's telling me Carolina, fantastic. And the crystal ball really went into full tout mode of this. Carolina, fantastic team. DVOA, footballoutsiders.com/subscribe. Looking great. At the same time, they're due for a come down. Davis Mills can't be any worse than he's been. So pick him up now. And then maybe this little crystal ball will be right about another shitty backup quarterback rising to glory.
The second take extra, not now. We are peering into the future. We have no time for your start, sit, and add drop questions. That costs extra. That is $49.99 an hour.
Yeah, these crystal balls don't come cheap, as you can tell.
Okay. This is very hard for me, but I am going to do something. I'm going to look deep into the future and look. I see a hex on Ben Roethlisberger. I understand that things look murky, look dark, but there's one Mr. Pat Freiermuth, okay, whose routes jumped from 34% in week 1 to 55%. I see a youth movement. I see Eric Ebron playing bingo at the retirement hall and Pat Freiermuth streaking down the field, catching touchdowns.
I like the take. I liked him last week. He didn't come through. For me, I don't even know. I can't even do the bit because you're doing the bit so well that I'm just getting dwarfed here. For me, this name, it sounds mystical. It almost sounds like an enchantment from another dimension. The name Quintez Cephas is occurring to me. Quintez getting targeted 16% of the snaps he's on the field. He was Jared Goff's guy in that Monday night game, pushing the ball downfield in a way none of these other receivers can do. So Quintez whispered into the wind and add him to your waivers.
Very, very nice. Okay. I am looking in here, and today there's a strong tight end presence in the future. I feel it deep into my bones. I can't find any other positions but tight ends. Jawan Johnson. My God, you're popping. This guy, Adam Troutman, looks dustier than my house after a year of not hiring a cleaner, but we finally hired and they dusted it and it is great now. And Jawan Johnson looks beautiful here. He was actually playing more than Trapman. He added routes in a nice passing script and looks like the future at the position in New Orleans.
He's a big-bodied man, which is what we know the future holds. And I guess we still got to do one more, boy. What the hell? I mean, clearly, I think the bit's pretty clearly spelled out here. Would you agree?
Yes.
Look, the bit seems to be perfect and completely incapable of being improved upon. And I will close it out. Pete's taken some tight ends, or his crystal ball has. Mine is telling me Jack Doyle, a less mystical name than Quintez Cephas, but 6 intended touches per game, 13% of the touches on the field. And you know who loves to throw to a tight end? Hapless backups coming in. So Jack Doyle, come on down. The crystal ball has requested thee.
One final one for me, and this is a little spin on what we normally do. This is actually protecting you from some of the other snake oil salesmen out there that'll charge you $69 an hour for waiver wire picks. And they might tell you that Byron Pringle had a long touchdown. They might tell you that Demarcus Robinson had a long touchdown, but they are clearly trailing Mecole Hardman in usage. Mecole Hardman led the team in targets. Do not fall for the fool's gold, for the false prophets. Stay strong and trust Mecole Hardman, who I have drafted on many, many best ball teams.
So the crystal balls have spoken. So any other takes you got? Your crystal ball, Pete? I feel like yours is doing a lot of work out there.
I don't know if I like this comment or I hate it. I think I have very average size hands. I think it's a small ball, okay?
This is a little ball for me too. I just want to say, like, my hands look gigantic. Like I look like I'm Boban.
One other thing I'm looking at in the crystal ball right now. You are 19,000th in line for this Tiger Woods NFT on DraftKings, but you will have better luck at the 4 p.m. drop.
Oh wait, also isn't there a WNBA drop going on, or is that tomorrow?
WNBA drop is tomorrow. There are 2 different queues depending on your collector score. But Spags, if I see into the future, I can tell you're a rent seeker who won't be eligible for the first drop and will only be eligible for the general drop 2 hours later.
Actually, here's a question for you, Pete. While you still have the crystal ball, how many moments on Top Shot do you think I have right now in my account?
Chris Spags, I look at you. You look like a man that went after 3 packs and then gave up on the platform. I guessing you have 11 moments.
23 moments, but I have churned and burned quite a few, and they're all shitty ones. These are all 33,000 out of 35,000.
How much of this segment do you see in our future, Chris?
I think an entire hour is what I'm going for. These are like, this is one of our bits that we can bring back one day, like the baby talk fantasy show that we.
Oh God. We're just trying to cater to every fetish out there.
Like something's gonna hit one of these days. Here we go. The crystal balls are put away. We are back to ourselves. And I gotta say, when we do this bit next week, I have to commit more. That's my homework, I think.
Yeah, and I need to get more of an outfit for it here. And Willis talking about best ball teams, that was not me. That was the palm reader character that was talking about it.
That's a good point. That is, that's, you can't be responsible for what a crystal ball, a psychic does on your show. Like that's content 101.
That's the beauty of playing characters is there's no ramifications for what you say.
Yeah. Let's do the Q&A segment, I guess, or we could, if you guys have questions, drop them in chat. We'll take a few questions. And I guess other than that, we should maybe start the Thursday night football showdown build. We are going to do our DFS builds here. We'll do one for week 3. We'll do one for the showdown, and we'll give our ride or die picks for Thursday night football. But I guess let's let some questions accumulate. And then I don't know, should we start
Thursday? You want to do showdown build, and then we'll take questions after they trickle in here.
Yeah, okay, let's do that. So let's start with the Thursday night football ride or die picks, and of course ride or die picks. We're going to do them all tomorrow. Tomorrow we got Hayden Winks from coming. Wait, his last name is Winks, right? It's not a shortened version of a name, right?
No, you got it.
He's not like Winklevoss, which would have been not.
I mean, it could be that. These are that's actually the first question on our show sheet for tomorrow. Is your last name shortened?
Are you actually one of the Winklevoss twins? Because he could pull it off.
He's a half brother. That's why he wasn't able to get the full Voss on the end.
Yeah, so Hayden Winks will be on tomorrow, giving us some great takes, of course, doing a lot over at Underdog. So go check out the content they're doing there. Both him and Josh Norris doing great stuff for the industry, in addition to talking about Underdog itself. Carolina, 25.5 implied points. Houston, 17.5 implied points. So an 8-point spread here. 8-point spread for the road team, which is a crazy one. The Edge sports line in this one does seem like it's a -4. So perhaps taking Houston to cover this one might be the move, just because it is kind of an egregious spread for a road team. But Pete, do you want to give a ride or die pick for this one first, or do we just want to do the build part?
Let's start with the build here.
Okay.
And also for this build, do we want to do like the really large field, or do we want to do like a smaller single entry build so we don't have to get quite as insane?
Let's do a chalk build. Let's build what we think would win, or at least cash in like a single entry.
All right. I'm putting this in. I'll pull it up on the screen. Got the $5 single entry here with 1,900. So we don't have to get too crazy in this specific build.
Do we want to start with captain here? Because I think the captain options, the chalk captain option I would assume will be McCaffrey, would be my thought.
Yeah, I believe McCaffrey is going to be obviously incredibly popular on this slate. There is some good value as well. So it's hard to imagine McCaffrey not being the most frequented captain here, I think.
It looks like Osmo has him 35% at captain on DraftKings, so go check out their data. Of course, I would advocate for them as much as anybody out there. And FanDuel 37% for MVP for McCaffrey. So let's do it. I think let's take the chalk option here.
All right, we're gonna put the chalk McCaffrey in here, and run the Sims as far as what they're looking at for the optimal. They have him appearing in the winning lineup as captain 45% of the time. So
probably a little under-owned then, even considering the high ownership.
Yeah, so we can definitely eat that. And then as far as what we want to do from there, I think we need to get pretty creative. Um, I someone said it in the chat, and I do have to get my boy Chris Conley in this lineup.
Okay, I would say Brandon Cooks. I know the price difference is huge, but I do think we could probably go both because Conley's 1,600.
Yeah,
So
Conley's honestly one of the best value savers on this slate, and we can definitely play both. I know you love Brandon Cook, so I get my guy that I'm friends with, and you get a guy that you've never met that you just happen to like on the football field.
Brandon Cooks and I are always sending DMs. Look, I have George Kittle. That's the one that I think he's bigger. He's the trump card one day.
A million times. Operative word on Trump there.
He was getting. Did you see the George Kittle Venom ads he's getting? Like he's like hanging out with Venom and advertising the movie. It might have been a pizza ad and a Venom ad at once. I forgot.
I missed that one, but I saw his lawnmower advertisement. Did you see that?
I did not. He's killing it. He's killing the game. Killing it.
Hey, we're all out here hustling.
All right, so it's your guy again then, because I got Cooks in, you got Conley in, so you can take one more.
Okay. Do we have
we should put Mills in then now, right? Because we have two pass catchers.
I think you're right. I mean, I think we pretty much have to play Mills in this build. You know what? I love DJ Moore. Can we make him fit? I don't think it's not going to fit at all. We've already
we couldn't even get there. Yeah.
We've spent so much money, so we need to really save money. Let's go then with Terrace Marshall. I'm like, it's sad, but I'm kind of out on Robbie Anderson.
Yeah, he's not getting the work. Only 12% of the total yards so far. Only getting it targeted on 7% of the snaps he's out there. So that's not a great number. I hate to go against Splash Play Bob. I'm sure it'll level out a little bit, but I don't see this being like it was last year. I think it seems like you're on the same page.
Yeah. And just the way that they've now flip-flopped the roles, and he's now more the deep threat. And I mean, the target share for DJ Moore right now is so good. And you have to expect Terrace Marshall is going to kind of continue to grow into his own there. So yeah, I'm a little worried. I think he's going to still have some big games, but I don't think he's going to have near the consistency that he did last year.
Also, Brandon Zylstra is higher priced than Terrace Marshall for the Showdown, which is wild.
Pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. It does seem like, Zylstra's only playing 13 snaps a game. That feels like a trap. I think if there is some ownership that ends up going to Zylstra's way, I'd definitely take Terrace over him. 5,900. I guess one of the running backs from the Texans. They're going to run it a lot. You know that.
Well, one other kind of play that I don't hate, if we think that the Panthers just absolutely roll, I think you could play Chuba in a lineup with C-Mac as the captain.
I don't think I have enough. I'm honestly thinking more like let's swap Mills for Darnold and just get a cheaper guy as the last guy. Because I think Darnold's responsible for 80% of their touchdowns so far this year, which is not going to hold up forever. But like I think he's more involved.
I think I would prefer that. You want to do that, and then that leaves us with 4,700. You could throw. Oh, we just missed Darnold. I feel like Darnold would have been good to toss in there.
Yeah. I wouldn't hate a kicker here, like saving some money and not taking Zylstra and taking one of the kickers.
Yeah, let me see.
Is it a Joey Sly revenge game?
I'm seeing. I think you do. I think if you play the kicker, you play Zane here because we're kind of already playing. You never want the kicker on the team that is projected to be in a really negative game script, and then they might just be like having to go for it on fourth downs and stuff.
Yeah, no, that's reasonable. Yeah, I think. Who is this Eberle guy, and why is he even? What's the deal there?
I don't know the deal. The Panthers signed Eberle to their practice squad on September 7th. That's all I have for you, Spags.
Okay, and I guess he was waived before that too. Yeah, okay. Don't play Dominic Eberle. It seems like this is the main thing. But yeah, I would say swap over to Darnold then from Mills too.
Look, Wallace, I have two guys I love, and Spags ate up all our salary with his Brandon Cooks play. Wait. Did I take Brandon Cooks out? Oh, I took the wrong guy out.
I was wondering where. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Uh-oh. We can't do
Oh, no.
We don't have enough money.
Oh, boy. Well, this fucks up everything.
This is bad.
Yeah, I guess we got to come off the kicker then. And so what are we getting at 3,100?
At 30? Geez. This is bad. I mean, we basically have to toss in like a Jordan Akins or something. a tight end.
Let's see. Jordan Akins and Farrell Brown both running 48 snaps per game for Brown, 45 for Akins.
Akins showing up in 18% of optimals, Farrell Brown 15%.
Take Akins.
Akins. There we go.
Wait, I hate this one. I got to say, like, for a single entry, I think this is fine. I do think for the tournaments, don't play McCaffrey at captain. Go wide receiver at captain.
I agree with that. I agree with that. But we wanted to knit it up. Spags wanted to make, a cute little conservative lineup.
Didn't you suggest doing the single?
I did.
I can't win on this show.
I just like painting you as the guy that doesn't let me do my crazy plays.
It's honestly funny because I feel like your approach to the show has rubbed off on people, where some of our reviews on Apple Podcasts as well that people can leave us, give us 5 stars or interview. You could be doing a guest spot here on Splash Play, but some of them are like, oh, all of Spags is terrible bets. Pete's so smart because he tells it's like, fuck, what maybe you didn't watch last season. I get it, but it hurts me. It hurts me.
All right, let me just public PSA, be nice to Spags. He's having a baby.
Mm-hmm. A baby who's going to be a great basketball player, surely based on name.
He's new to this content stuff. He's never gotten kind of ridiculed online, so this is, all new for him.
That's what I'm known for. It's all been positive vibes for me from small batches of people. That's only what I've seen in my life.
All right, so we're going to take some questions before we build a main slate lineup.
Yeah, do we have any? I know there was one interesting question that we got via a comment, and honestly was probably just somebody searching for like whatever fantasy videos and asking this question everywhere. But I thought it was worthwhile because Ryan McCarthy asked on our Splash Play channel, would you start Hurts or Russ this week? And that's a question for me that actually was much tougher. I was going to just give him a quick, probably start Russ in a game where going against Minnesota, going to be high scoring, all that. But Hurts against Dallas on Monday night, that's a real hammer. So I'm curious what you think here. Would you go Hurts or Russ for Ryan McCarthy?
I mean, I literally think that's a coin flip. I think I slightly prefer Russ just because that game environment kind of checks all the boxes. And I have basically zero concerns about how Seattle is running their offense right now. Minnesota secondary has been bad. The Cardinals just gashed them. But yeah, Hurts is good. I think Hurts probably just has maybe a slightly higher floor just because he's going to run 50 plus yards. And I don't think we can say that about Russ, but I think Russ's passing efficiency in that game environment might just be a little better.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that to me, that game does seem like it's hard to imagine it not being a shootout, given what we've seen of Minnesota so far, given what we've seen of Seattle as well, pushing the ball downfield a bit more. So I think Russ is a play that's hard to argue, but I really think it's one of the spots where this guy's roster, you need to trade one of these guys. So you don't have to deal with this every week.
Yeah, that is honestly, if you have 2 good quarterbacks like that, it's one thing if you find one on the waiver, say you get Fields and you're kind of rocking with that. But if you use draft capital on both of these guys, and I mean, Jalen Hurts, you had to use some draft capital on him. I mean, try to flip one of them for, I don't know what the market is for it. I bet you can get a solid, I don't know, wide receiver 3 type for a Jalen Hurts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would think so. Somebody will be happy to take him because he's definitely got the floor, and we haven't seen the downside really of him so far. He hasn't been throwing any picks or really. So I think I would agree. Try to trade one of those guys if you can. Is it possible to fade CMC in the captain spot, or is it impossible not to, I presume is the question here. I think you can. I think in cash games, you certainly shouldn't, but for the big field tournaments, I think that's the first thing you can do to get away from, 4/5 of the field. I mean, yeah. Depending on what it looks like.
Well, even I'm looking at on the Run the Sims, they run it, they see how often a lineup is showing in 10,000 Sims. And the number one most frequented lineup is a Davis Mills captain. It's a Davis Mills, Conley, Brandon Cooks, Sam Darnold, Christian McCaffrey, Anthony Miller appears 29 times. So yeah, the math is saying that you can definitely not, and you look at the optimals, it's Christian McCaffrey showing up in 44%. That is a ton, obviously, but that's still less than half of lineups. Mm-hmm. Less than or more than half of the time, Christian McCaffrey is not the optimal captain.
I wouldn't fade him in utility, though. I think you probably have to play him, 100% utility.
Again, it goes back to the field contest size. I'm going to play 20 max tonight, and and some of those are massive. I think it's 150,000 entries, and I definitely think I'll probably have some lineups without Christian McCaffrey, just as the only way to get unique. But yeah, if you're playing stuff under, I don't know, 5,000, it's almost impossible. He's showing up in 90% of lineups. So 1 out of 10 times he won't be in there. I'm probably going to play for that in the super large field. Probably a bad bet otherwise.
Also, just going through the chat real fast, our guy Joshua Frick said, LOL WNBA drop. To be clear, the WNBA ROI, I think, was the strongest I've seen of anything on Top Shot in a while. I just need to say that because that was when I got the first WNBA pack. It sold them all off for like $50 each.
Yeah, I think I'm legitimately hyped on the run it back stuff. My cousin played in the WNBA for a short spell. Some of her good friends, Becky Hammond. I'm really hoping that there is a Becky Hammond run it back moment. Yeah, I don't know. I get that it's not the NBA. A lot of people don't follow it, but I'm having fun with it. And they've been doing lots of showcases too, where you can get free airdrop moments from WNBA. So yeah, I'm excited about the run it back. And I believe they're going to be announcing the NBA run it back very soon as well.
Yeah. Also, I think Becky Hammond was one of the the three they listed as having the biggest plays. Max is mentioning the Lisa Leslie dunk, like that'll be there for sure. But I think it was that one, the Becky Hammond one, and one other one were like their three. Might be a Cheryl Swoops something.
They did confirm there's going to be a Becky Hammond moment.
It was in the email they sent yesterday.
All right, I'm going to be buying that on the secondary, even if I don't get.
Honestly, I don't mind. Like I think as part of the Edge Sports thing, we're figuring out our NBA offerings for the year and what that's going to look like content wise, and as well as like the data that we're going to be. It'll be fun. I think it's been a really interesting process for me. But my goal, honestly, is to roll into WNBA, where I think I might be doing WNBA content next year. So I'm gonna embrace the ladies here and really more so embrace my profitability in basketball data. But I mean, honestly, it is a fun product, and I think too, if you're being one of those guys like poo-pooing it because it's the ladies, like it's also a smaller but really passionate market. So for Top Shot, like that's the kind of stuff you want, people being willing to pay a little more than they probably should be willing to pay.
Yeah, and like I know Adam Levitan for years has been a huge grinder of WNBA DFS as well, with that same thought process where it's not covered as much. There's not as good of projections and news and reporting. So if you're really willing to dive in and pound the pavement, there's big edges in some of those niche sports.
Yeah, and Basketball Reference has the exact same data for women that they do for the men. So just keep that in mind. I think really be more open to stuff, especially if it's plus EV and you just enjoy basketball. Like I think that's a positive. We got to give a ride or die pick for the game. And I talked about the totals here, but 25.5 implied points for Carolina, Houston 17.5. Pete, I'll let you pick first. And of course, we are given 10 points for a showdown winning captain if you get that right.
Yeah, man, I'll go with, he's so expensive that the math probably disagrees with me a little bit, but I'll say DJ Moore.
I think that's, the wide receiver getting a lot of the love, I think is always going to be a good pick to go to. I will say for me, man, I feel like I'd hate the numbers here. Davis Mills looks terrible, 47% adjusted completion rate for him so far. So he's not even hitting guys anywhere they need to. But I'll take Davis Mills at captain. I think a cheap QB at captain and a game script that he's going to be playing from behind. I think he's going to have a terrible time with it, but I think it's worth a stab. So he's my pick for my honestly the least enthusiastic ride or die pick ever.
I can't believe you're not going with Brandon Cooks.
I think it's more likely that Mills runs a little, does some stuff. Like it wouldn't shock me if he gets a rushing touchdown just because he's not going to be confident throwing into short windows. Like I think if anybody's going to suffer with Davis Mills, it's probably going to be Cooks because it's tough for him to keep up what he's been doing. He's getting 159 air yards a game so far.
Here's your captain. Check out that neck.
He's honestly very goose-like, swan-like, perhaps, if we want to be really positive.
Yeah, no, in the white jersey, I think the swan is a nice comparison.
He looks like a QB. Like he looks more like a QB than John Wolford did, and we all know how I rode or die with that guy.
Yeah, this is your time to shine. I mean, no one loves backup quarterbacks more than you, Spags.
He's thrown it downfield, 3 deep attempts per game so far. There's something here. It's just, boy, going against Carolina with how they've looked so far. You got to really count on the bounce back here of just them being average is what you'd hope for old Davis Mills. But handsome guy. I think we have ladies in the chat. Do they think Davis Mills is handsome? Please tell us.
Please tell us, leave a review on Splash Play and say you are horny for David Mills.
I know Blitz in particular. Blitz will have no issue chiming in here and telling me if we think that Davis Mills is handsome. Do you think he's handsome? He's in the Peter Overzet tree. I feel like of people that you could kind of look vaguely like.
Okay, well in that case, I think he's fucking sexy as all hell.
Like long necks. I don't know if that's a thing we like. I know we're objectifying. I'm sorry for objectifying men here. That's the one thing, but
yeah, I think he's great.
His is like strong and long.
All right. Once Spag says strong and long, the segment is over.
Oh, that's just one of our rules. That's always how it's been. That's a negative. Okay.
Let's not waived it.
We gave it a shot. Sorry, Davis Mills. Tried to wingman for you with our audience of ladies, our audience of one of ladies. Let's do you want to do the main slate build too? Get that out of the way here. We got 10 minutes left on the show.
Yes. And I will, let's do a main slate build. Let's go. Do you want to do again, like small single entry, or you want to go a little bigger?
Let's go. You know what, Pete? Why don't you choose here, and then we'll find out how it's still my fault either way.
Yeah. All right. Let's shoot for the stars. $100,000 up top. The play action, the $3 20 max contest.
Okay. So where do we even build? Honestly, I haven't built anything for the week so far, so I'm definitely going from scratch here. So I'll let you make the first pick and sort of push the narrative that you want.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm always trying to do. Push my agenda at all costs. I'll start with this. I'll start by saving us some money. I'll put in a guy that my psychic seemed to like. Mecole Hardman at 3,900 here in this game with a 55-point over-under, I believe. I'm pretty excited about Hardman.
Yeah, see, Kansas City and the Chargers does have 54.5 is the most recent line I pulled, which I think is good. Now, honestly, a week of really high totals. Really, that Tampa Bay game also has some higher total than I would have thought too. I think I'm going to go. I feel like Seattle receivers are just always under-owned, and I'm going to make sure that that's actually the case. Yeah, Tyler Lockett's around 10%. I think Tyler Lockett's the move. He's been the guy so far. I know at some point we're going to get to DK Metcalf times, but he's a little hurt too. And Freddie Swain, I think, is another guy that could have fit in the crystal ball segment that I just forgot about. But I think Tyler Lockett, to me, there's something with him that I think is a little bit better than what Metcalf's, at least so far, with maybe him being a little more hurt than people realize. Yeah,
I'm really curious to see how the ownership shakes out on Lockett versus Metcalf. In the olden days, Lockett would be like 25%, owned coming off of two massive weeks. And yet, because they're priced so similarly, and I feel like the field just is already conditioned to thinking of the Seattle Seahawks alternating, ping-ponging big weeks, and that everyone's just gonna be like, all right, he did it twice. Now it's Metcalf time, right? It's Metcalf time, right? And then all of a sudden Lockett comes in sub 10% again. So I could definitely see that coming. I will keep kicking the can down the road for picking our quarterback, and I'll do a little correlation in this game because I do love this Seattle-Minnesota game, and I'll put in Justin Jefferson.
Okay, I was wondering where you're going to go with it. I thought you might take one of the QBs, and I guess this is actually the point that I think now we need to decide which QB we want to go with, because I think we should take one of Cousins or Cooks, or Cousins and Wilson rather. Wilson definitely projecting pretty loftily from Osmo. 25 fantasy points is the projection there. I'll go Russ. Russ has been cooking. Russ has been also getting a large portion of the touchdowns, and might be a week for Chris Carson to bounce back, but I feel like Russ has been looking like a different man, like really throwing the ball downfield in the way they haven't allowed him in the past. 11 deep throws per game is what Russ is averaging right now.
Yeah, Russ looks great. This is the 4 p.m. game, so we can have some flexibility. I am debating. I do want to double stack Russ here, and I'm debating between Everett and Freddie Swain. Everett's been splitting, time with Disley, which isn't ideal, but I do think he's still the preferred option in the red zone. Swain coming off the touchdown catch, but I'd rather just get rid of the tight end position, and Everett's still pretty cheap at 3,000 and just kind of correlate him with Russ.
Yeah, we can't afford a Kelsey this week, so I think that's probably a reasonable one to go to. Also, I think I just said 11 deep throws per game. It's actually 11 total, so 5.5 per game for Russ so far, which is also still a good number. Who's the chalk running back this week is what I'm wondering now.
It's going to be, so people are going to be on Saquon. People are going to go back to Najee.
Dalvin looks pretty highly owned.
Yeah, the ankle stuff might keep him a little under, and then Henry, I think, is going to end up being popular.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one that's scary to not have in the lineup. I feel like this week. Can we get him in? Can we even do a lineup if we get him in? We can get there. We just have to go real cheap at D.
All right. Well, let's just correlate and put the Titans defense in.
Okay. Yeah, that's reasonable. Yeah, especially the matchup too. Like they've also been so bad they probably have to be a little better at some point. I'm okay with that then. You can take another running back if you want.
All right. I'll play to the crowd here. I like this suggestion from Drico. Let's go with DeAndre Swift, who I think is probably underpriced by about $700 based on his role here. And it'll save us a little bit of money, gives us a flex option of 4,100.
Okay, so let me see the tier here at that price of 4,100.
Yeah, so we are going to be looking at
Callaway. So not great stuff up top.
There's going to be no good running backs there, so let me go just wide receiver.
That's actually one of the annoying DK navigation things now, because they're all 4K flat, so you just end up having to wade through every single running back who exists.
Yeah. Cephas. Actually, Cephas correlated. Well, if we want to make a bigger bet on the Lions, he looks good. Elijah Moore's role was growing last week. De'Ami Brown had a decent amount of targets. Samuel out another week. Hamler always likely to get loose. You could just full on onslaught this game with KJ Osborne.
Yeah, I think for me, I would go. Honestly, I think Cephas might be the play for me.
Yeah. Let's do Cephas. I am going to move Lockett down into our flex like a true GPP bro who leaves himself optionality. And we will go Cephas, if I can spell his name right.
You just have to look into your crystal ball, and then it'll whisper it to you.
Quinn. No, we can't relapse. We can't relapse. All right, there it is. Russell Wilson, double stack to Everett and Lockett. You bring it back with Jefferson. You play the D running back correlation with Henry and Titans. And then we go basically the Lions in garbage time, DeAndre Swift and Cephas getting a ton of targets, and then a one-off Mecole Hardman in a high-scoring game.
I think it's a perfect lineup.
It's perfect. It's
I think there's no way to improve on it in any way whatsoever. I don't care what the math says. That is a top 10 percentile lineup, I would say.
Willis, Spags. So one thing we always have to do is we have to beg our audience not to dupe us. Will you please beg Willis not to dupe us, bro?
Well, yeah, Willis. I think Willis can dupe us because that's part of his compensation package. I think that we after getting a job offer of such really note last time out on the show. Now he also gets to dupe our lines, but he's the only one that gets to dupe our lines.
We're making a one-time exception, and it's just Willis. I swear to God, if anyone else tries to dupe our lineup, you need to do at least a year's worth of accounting to earn the right to dupe our lineups.
Yeah, we'll sue you for our intellectual property. You cannot duplicate this lineup. Copyright. I've declared copyright.
There it is. All right. I like that team. I like it. I mean,
I think we built some good lineups today. I feel good about it. Of course, Thursday Night Football coming up, so make sure to go and play some Showdown lineups. Those are the fun ones, and check for some of the best bets on all the sites out there. The Edge Sports lines, always great to look at edjsports.com as a frame of reference. They're running 100,000 simulations for each game to figure out how it's going to look. So sometimes we'll give you some takes that's different from the industry out there. Go check out Football Outsiders as well, footballoutsiders.com/subscribe to get DVOA and all the other data they have. They also have some fantasy data. So it's cheap packages on there as well, like literally a fractional amount of some of the DFS sites out there. So go check them out, add them to your process alongside Run the Sims and all the other data we talk about. Follow at Chris Spags, follow at Peter Overzet, follow at Splash Play Pod, and give us your 5 stars and a review on Apple Podcasts, because those guest spots are being given away for the first time tomorrow, and then we'll give them away, I guess, however many we have. I would like to get everybody on the show. But Pete, what do you have? Any thoughts on that? Having every single person who leaves us a review on the show, first of all, and also your plugs. Feel free to do that too.
I mean, I would hope that we have so many reviews that's actually an untenable goal to get every single person on the show. But I want to get our OGs, the true fans, up here on the stage. I want to give them the mic, and I just want to pray that they don't say anything that takes away our precious sponsorship money.
So that's true. Yeah, you can't get us canceled. Leave that to the professionals. Keep it nice, but we trust you all. But tomorrow we'll be giving it away. So come tune in then. Check us out with Hayden Winks doing ride or die picks and breaking down everything you need to know for week 3. I'm Chris Spags. That's Peter Overzet. We'll see you guys again soon.